All right, ready to dive in. Today, we're taking a look at Chet Chat's video, How to Develop an Attractive Personality.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one. 7 tips, right?
7 tips to make you, well, more attractive.
Sounds a bit like a self-help listicle.
Yeah, maybe, but could be some gems in there.
Definitely. He seems to go for that practical advice.
Less about soul searching, more about actionable steps.
Exactly.
So, first up is this thing he calls the conversation ratio.
Okay.
7525. That's how much you should be listening versus talking.
Wow, 75% listening. That's a lot.
Is that even realistic? Like, are we supposed to be silent most of the time?
I don't think it's about being totally silent. It's more about, really focusing on the other person.
Making them feel heard.
Yeah, like they're the only one in the room.
Chet Chat calls it a creative force, this listening thing.
I kind of get that. When you really listen, you give someone space to open up.
And that can be attractive, like someone who just hangs on your every word.
I think so, yeah.
Mhm.
It makes you feel valued.
So nodding along, little that kind of thing.
Those cues help, definitely. Shows you're engaged.
But it's got to be genuine, right? Not just going through the motions.
Totally. And this is where it gets tricky, that Me Too impulse.
Oh, tell me about it.
Someone's like, I went to Italy, and you're like, oh, I went to Rome last year.
Right,
Mm.
right. Bringing it back to yourself.
It's so tempting, but we got to resist that urge.
Let the spotlight stay on them.
Exactly. It's their moment.
Speaking of spotlights, ever notice how some people just have that it's factor?
Like they walk into a room and everyone's drawn to them.
Yeah. Is it confidence? Good looks? What is it?
Maybe it's a bit of everything.
Could it be as simple as being a good listener, like we were just saying?
I think that plays a big part, yeah.
All right, Chet's second tip is about humor.
Icebreaker jokes, he calls it.
Even quotes Jim Carrey. More attractive when I laugh at myself.
I don't know. Using humor as a technique feels a bit forced.
Like you're trying too hard?
Yeah, maybe
But there's something to be said for someone who can poke fun at themselves.
true. Shows they don't take themselves too seriously.
It's disarming, right? Puts people at ease.
And it takes confidence to laugh at your own flaws.
So maybe that's the connection to attractiveness, this self-assuredness.
Could be. Psychologically, self-deprecating humor is interesting.
How so?
Studies show people who use it are seen as more likable,
Really?
more humble, more approachable.
Makes sense. It's like you're saying, hey, I'm not perfect.
Right, and that makes you more relatable.
Maybe that ties into the listening thing, too. Creating a space where people feel comfortable opening up.
Yeah, I can see that. Vulnerability breeds vulnerability.
Okay, tip number 3 is the name card.
Intriguing name. What's that all about?
He gets a bit mystical here, talking about the power of names.
Oh, like in ancient mythology.
Yeah, brings up the Egyptian sun god Ra.
Had to know the true names of things to have power over them.
Exactly. And it kind of makes sense, even in everyday life.
Like when someone remembers your name, it makes you feel seen,
Yeah, like you matter.
not just another face in the crowd.
So using someone's name a lot in conversation, that's the tip.
I think so, yeah. Shows you're paying attention.
But gotta be careful with pronunciation.
Oh, absolutely. Fumbling over someone's name is the worst.
Total conversation killer?
Better to ask for clarification than butcher it.
Good point. Okay, this next one is a bit more secretive.
The secret strategy. Sounds intense.
It's about building trust by, well, sharing secrets.
That's risky, isn't it?
A bit. Aren't we always told not to reveal too much too soon?
Yeah, but there's also that whole scarcity principle thing.
Explain that one.
The less available something is, the more valuable it seems.
So by sharing something personal, you're making the other person feel special.
Like you're trusting them with something precious.
Interesting. But yeah, gotta be careful who you trust.
Absolutely. Can't just spill your guts to anyone.
So what's the takeaway for our listener here? How do you navigate this secret strategy?
I'd say pay attention to how the other person behaves. Do they gossip a lot?
Oh, good point. If they blab about others, they'll probably blab about you.
Exactly. Look for people who are discreet, respectful.
Someone you feel comfortable opening up to.
And remember, vulnerability is a two-way street.
So don't expect them to share their deepest secrets right away.
It takes time to build that kind of trust.
All right, on to tip number 5. And this one is all about, well, being interesting.
Roots of interest, he calls it. Makes sense.
We've all met that person who can only talk about one thing.
Oh, yeah. And it gets old fast.
Like they're a broken record.
You can only hear about their fantasy football league so many times.
Exactly. Chet's point is that having diverse interests makes you more engaging,
because you can connect with people on different levels.
keeps things fresh, prevents those awkward silences.
Right, you're not just stuck in your own little world.
So, how do we cultivate this roots of interest thing? Do we have to become Renaissance people overnight?
I think it's more about being open to new things.
Tapping into that curiosity we all have.
Exactly. Remember when we were kids, how everything was fascinating?
We need to get back to that.
Could be as simple as reading a book on a new topic.
Or trying a new hobby?
Even just striking up a conversation with someone who has different views than you.
Right. Get out of your echo chamber.
It's all about expanding your horizons.
Makes you a more well-rounded person and probably more attractive, too.
Definitely. Who wants to be predictable?
Okay, tip number 6. This one's about friendship.
Magnet of friends. So the more friends you have, the more attractive you are.
That's what I thought at first, but he actually emphasizes quality over quantity.
Interesting. So it's not about being the most popular person in the room.
More about having genuine connections.
People who genuinely care about you.
And who you care about in return.
Exactly. It's a two-way street.
Think about the people you're drawn to. Are they the ones with 1 million followers?
Or the ones who make you feel good about yourself.
Yeah, those are the people who really matter.
The ones who lift you up, make you feel supported.
So how do we cultivate those kinds of friendships?
I think it starts with being a good friend yourself.
Being there for people, showing you care,
Little things can go a long way. A phone call, a thoughtful text.
just being present, listening without judgment.
Exactly. And celebrating each other's successes.
Because true friendship is about sharing life's journey together.
Through thick and thin.
Okay, on to the final tip, and this one's about boundaries.
The art of saying no. Oh, that's a tough one.
So tough. I always feel bad saying no.
Me too. Like I'm letting people down.
But we can't say yes to everything.
We'd be completely
We'll be
overwhelmed.
probably resentful.
Exactly. So learning to say no is essential.
But how do you do it gracefully? Without sounding like a jerk?
Chet gives some good phrases like, I'm not able to commit to that right now, but thank you for thinking of me.
Polite but firm.
Right. You don't need to over-explain or make excuses.
And sometimes saying no to one thing frees you up to say yes to something else.
Something that's more important to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's about prioritizing your time and energy.
And being true to yourself.
So, for our listener out there, what are some situations where you struggle to say no?
What are some strategies you can use to assert your needs respectfully?
Because setting boundaries is not selfish, it's healthy.
It's about taking care of yourself so you can show up as your best self for others.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground with Chet's 7 tips.
Lots to think about. Some interesting ideas in there.
Definitely. But I feel like we've only scratched the surface.
Yeah, there's a whole deeper level to explore here.
Like, what about the role of authenticity? Is it all just techniques, or is there something more?
I think that's where we need to go next.
From the external to the internal.
Exactly. Let's dive deeper.
Sounds good to me.
It really makes you think, how much is about like outward behavior?
Versus something deeper.
Yeah, Chet was big on the practical steps.
But is that enough? Can you really hack your way to charisma?
I'm not so sure. I mean, you can learn techniques, sure.
But if it's not genuine,
Exactly. People can sense that, I think.
like you can learn the lines, but if you don't feel the emotion behind them,
It comes across as fake.
so where does that leave us? Back to square one.
Not necessarily. We can work on both, I think.
The inside and the outside.
Right. Like,
Oh.
imagine a plant.
Okay.
You can give it all the right fertilizer, the perfect amount of sunlight.
But if the soil is bad,
It's not going to thrive.
so we need good soil, metaphorically speaking.
Exactly. That's the inner work.
All right, but that sounds kind of vague. What does inner work even mean?
It starts with self-awareness, I think.
Knowing your strengths, your weaknesses.
Yeah. What are your values? What are you passionate about?
And how does that translate into being more attractive?
When you're comfortable with yourself, it shows.
People pick up on that energy.
They're drawn to it.
So it's not about trying to be someone you're not.
It's about being the best version of yourself.
Okay, I like that. But it's easier said than done. Yeah.
Definitely takes effort. But it's worth it, I think.
Because when you're genuine, people connect with you on a deeper level.
And that's where true magnetism lies.
Speaking of connection, I wanted to go back to that secret strategy thing.
Oh, yeah. The whole sharing secrets to build trust idea.
It's still kind of bugging me. Seems like a recipe for disaster.
It can backfire if you're not careful.
How do you know who to trust?
It's tough. I think you have to pay attention to their actions.
More than their words.
Exactly. Do they gossip about other people? Red flag.
Makes sense. If they can't keep someone else's secret.
They're probably not going to keep yours.
What about people who always need to be the center of attention?
Another red flag. They might use your secrets to manipulate you.
Yikes. So trust your gut.
If something feels off, it probably is.
Better to err on the side of caution.
Definitely. And remember, you don't have to share anything you're not comfortable with.
It's your choice.
Exactly. Don't feel pressured.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. What about that roots of interest thing?
Ah, yes. The importance of being well-rounded.
We were talking about how boring it is to listen to someone who can only talk about one thing.
Right. Like they're trapped in their own little world.
But how do you actually broaden your horizons?
I think it starts with curiosity.
Like being open to new experiences.
Yeah. Asking questions, trying new things.
I remember when we were kids, everything was an adventure.
We need to get back to that mindset.
Okay, but life gets in the way. Work, responsibilities.
I know, it's hard. But even small steps can make a difference.
Like what?
Reading a book on a topic you know nothing about.
Or watching a documentary.
Taking a class?
Or just striking up a conversation with someone who has different views than you.
Exactly. Challenge yourself to step outside your comfort zone.
Makes you a more interesting person, that's for sure.
And who knows, you might even discover a new passion.
Okay, on to Chet Chat's magnet of friends concept.
That one's about the power of friendship, right?
Yeah. But he's not saying you need to be the most popular person in the room.
It's about quality over quantity.
Having those genuine connections that make you feel supported.
The people who lift you up make you feel good about yourself.
So how do we find those people?
I think it's a two-way street. You have to be that kind of friend, too.
Someone who's there for others, who listens, who cares.
Exactly, and who celebrates their successes.
Because true friendship is about sharing life's journey together.
Through good times and bad.
All right, last but not least, let's revisit that art of saying no.
Oh, man. Still struggling with that one.
Me too. But we talked about how important it is for setting boundaries.
Protecting your time and energy.
And not feeling resentful.
Exactly. Saying no is a form of self-care.
But it's so hard to do without feeling guilty.
Right. Like you're letting people down.
Any tips for making it easier?
Well, Chit Chat had some good phrases. Like, I'm not able to commit to that right now, but thank you for thinking of me.
Polite but firm.
Yeah. And remember, you don't have to give a long explanation.
Just a simple no is enough.
Sometimes it's helpful to offer an alternative.
Like, I can't do that this weekend, but maybe next weekend.
Exactly. Shows you're still willing to be helpful.
But ultimately, it's about putting yourself first.
Making sure your needs are met.
Because if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of others.
Exactly. It's all connected.
A little boost of positivity for both people.
Totally. And, you know, there's actually research on this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, studies have shown that doing kind things for others can actually make you happier.
So it's not just about being nice, it's about boosting your own well-being.
Exactly. Kindness is good for everyone involved.
I love that. So how do we, actively practice this?
I think it starts with being more aware,
Yeah.
noticing opportunities to be kind.
Instead of just rushing through our day.
Right, like holding the door for someone, offering a genuine compliment.
Even just smiling at a stranger.
Those little things can make a difference.
And it doesn't have to be anything grand.
Nope. Just small, consistent acts of kindness.
Because those are the things that really make someone attractive, right?
Absolutely. It shows you care about others.
And that you're a good person deep down.
Exactly. It's about character.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, we've gone from listening skills to sharing secrets to the power of friendship.
And everything in between.
It's been quite a journey.
But I think the biggest takeaway for me is that true magnetism comes from within.
It's not about tricks or techniques.
It's about being authentic, being kind, being the best version of yourself.
And that's something we can all strive for.
Absolutely. Well, before we wrap up, any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
Let me think. I guess I'd ask them to consider this.
Hmm.
Who are the people you admire most in the world?
Good question.
And what is it about them that inspires you? Is it their looks, their money, their fame?
Probably not.
I think it's something deeper. Their values, their character, their way of being in the world.
The way they treat others.
Exactly. So my challenge to our listeners is to be that kind of person.
Be the person you admire.
Because that's what true magnetism is all about.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the art of attraction.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.